My name's Tim. I'm an addict. Thank you for having me. You're big thankers here in Newcastle. In London, we don't thank people much at meetings. We're just entitled, so we just expect people to do things and don't really notice when they do. So if it's a very Scottish thing, they do it in Scotland as well. Lots of the thanking. So thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me up. I'm the lucky one being here. I've enjoyed my trip so far. I'm looking forward to the whole weekend. So I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a member of Al-Anon. I'll go to... Some people are very faithful to one fellowship, wouldn't be seen dead at the other ones. I'm not faithful to any one fellowship. I'm a slag. I'll go to any meeting which will have me. I'm just super happy to be there. And, you know, just not drinking today, not taking any drugs today, not acting out in any other way today is a miracle. I'm here talking to you not because I'm well, but because I'm a mess who's been doing this for a long time and knows how to handle being a mess using the 12 steps. My clean date is the 24th of July 1993, and the fact that I've been clean for that time is not down to me, it's down to the success of the programme. If it can work for me, it can work for other people too. I'm pretty convinced about that. I'm not put together very well psychologically and emotionally and in lots of other ways. And so, as I say, if someone like me can stay sober and clean, other people can as well. Now, I've got lots of questions here. I'll probably stick to the order, but there's one question I'll bring forward. But the first question here, what finally made you give recovery an honest try? I like the finally, because there's the assumption there it took me a minute, which it did. What did you misunderstand or resist early on that later became vital, and what do you wish you'd started doing sooner? I first tried to recover from my addiction in 1990, if anyone remembers that. I'd had a bad 80s, let's put it that way. Started well, went downhill when I started with the addiction. I got into trouble very, very soon. I wasn't mentally well before I ever took a substance, before I ever started drinking. So you add drink on top of that, and I was pretty antisocial pretty quickly, getting into trouble in lots of embarrassing ways. But mostly I was losing my mind by the age of 18. I couldn't see how I could carry on the way I was. And I stopped for a few months on my own. Then I could stop. Later on, I couldn't. And I'm going to bring in the last question here, which is, do you believe a man of 30 is without defense against the first drink and needs a spiritual experience in order to stop drinking? So if you're not familiar from that story in the book, I believe it starts on page 32, goes on to page 33. And it says, basically, bloke, 30, in trouble, realises if he carries on drinking, fucked. So better stop. Stays sober for 25 years. Starts again, fucked quickly because of alcohol. Tries to stop, but can't. So the first time he tries to stop at 30, fine, he can stop and stay stopped. He does go back. The next time, he can't even stop. And one of the features of addiction, alcoholism, is that it's progressive. And I've known people, I'm sure you've known people, who are in and out and in and out and in and out, and I was an in and out person. And you see people come in and out, and they come back and they get the white key ring, whatever. Everyone's glad they're back. They go out, and something happens on the out, which means they can't come back for whatever reason. And a great friend of mine, for a couple of years, 1993 to 1995, we spoke every night on the phone, had a slip, and he tried to come. It took him 6 or 7 years before he even tried to come back. When he tried to come back, he came to meetings, but we couldn't get through to him, and he couldn't get through to us. He wasn't lacking willingness to come back, We weren't lacking the information, but we couldn't get through to him, and we couldn't work out why. And one of the things that really scares the bejesus out of me when it comes to addiction is the fact that when someone is out there again, they can't break that. I can't break that. The world of medicine can't break that. Someone I know at my home group started drinking again and doing some other substances and came to the meeting in a state of disarray on a number of occasions, half undressed, crazy. Lots of the people who are sober there are half undressed, but that's a different question. What do you wear at meetings when it's hot like this? Fine, but otherwise, why are you wearing what you're wearing at meetings? Big question. Anyway, because it's not a knocking shop, just to be clear on that. What do they say about relationships in recovery? The goods are odd, but the odds are good. Anyway, came to meetings in a real state, and it was amazing to watch because it set off all the untreated Al-Anons in the room who started buzzing around trying to solve the problem. So he cracks open a can of create problem in the meeting. Everyone tries to solve it. So some people are trying to counsel him into... He was clearly high. People are trying to counsel him into stopping using and giving recovery another go. Other people are like, we need to get him out of here. Someone called an ambulance eventually. They pressed the emergency button, the emergency release. And an ambulance came, picked him up, and they were like, good, look how we dealt with that. Marvellous. Got taken off to hospital. Someone went with him to make sure that he didn't jump out of the ambulance. And he was indeed admitted. And he discharged himself voluntarily 24 hours later. So you can get someone even into a medical detox. There's no guarantee that they're going to stay there and that when they come out that they're not going to use again because it's got them. A friend of mine did a 3-month detox, and it took a 3-month detox to really get all the substances out of the system and to get his system just regulated again. It takes a long time. And so the reason why I finally took it seriously in 1993, so for those 3 years between my first time of stopping and actually stopping, some of that was outside recovery, some of that was inside recovery. The thing which turned the key in the lock was realising if I go out, I might not come back. And that's for a number of reasons. Something can go off in the brain where you just think, you know what? No, I can't be bothered anymore. It's too much. Trying to come back is too embarrassing. It's too much effort. I'm just going to let addiction have its way and hope that it's quick. I remember saying to someone 30-odd years ago, because I read it in the book, and I thought what you do, just say things in the book and then people will like you. And so I said, for me, to drink is to die. And she said, if you're lucky, and that's right, a friend of mine died relatively quickly after relapsing in an unpleasant way. And a friend of mine pointed out if he'd carried on another 10 years, imagine what havoc he would have created. And the sister who dealt with the estate after he died and looked at his finances, how much was going on drink and drugs, she said that all of that money would have gone. There wouldn't have been a penny left for the family if he'd carried, because he was just blowing through it at such an incredible rate. There are people who get into car wrecks and kill other people. I mean, the most awful things can happen. So quick or slow, sometimes quick is better. If I went, I would want to go quickly. I realised I might not make it back because I got into a traffic incident and I easily could have been killed. I got arrested. I sweet-talked my way out of arrest. And I thought, this could be the last time, so I need to do it properly. But more than that, you need something else. And the something else is this. You see it in Bill's story in the big book, where Ebby Thatcher, old friend of Bill's, comes to see him, and he talks about the times that they hired a jet to complete the JAG. So interesting. Bill, trying to tell a story about his alcoholism, is still showing off. Look, I could hire a jet. That's what he wants you to know. But this friend comes to see him, and he realises that his old friend is fundamentally changed. And he thinks, I'll have some of that. So I needed to be seeing people in meetings who were doing okay. And lots of people are not doing okay, and that's fine. We're glad everyone is here. And whatever state you're in, you're totally welcome to be here. We're glad you're here. But it does need at least... You know what? One person in the room is enough. You don't need like a majority to be doing well. Just one can prove that it works. And in one group I went to, which I think I went to because at least I wasn't the most unhappy, dysfunctional person in the room, where I was at most meetings I went to. Someone referred to me as the training programme for group consciences in AA in West London, because I was such a troublemaker. Groups regularly had to hold group consciences on how to deal with me because I would disrupt meetings. So this one meeting where I was clearly not the worst person in the room, there was someone who came in like whistling and was clearly happy and didn't give a fuck what people thought about him. And he was having a good time. No one liked him. He didn't care. He was just having his own life, dropping in at the meeting, sharing a little bit and going again. I thought, if I could be like that, I'd be all right. I could imagine not being him, but being like him, being me, but with some of what he had. That combination of, you know what, this could be the last time, so I need to be really careful this time. I need to dot the I's and cross the T's. And having a bit of hope. It doesn't work. You can't bash people over the head just with the hopelessness. You've got to have the hope. You've got two comings to believe in the big book. The first one is we came to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we've been living it. And then there's the hope that, there's the coming to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. What did I resist? I resisted doing exactly what someone else suggested. I would, as I said at the meeting yesterday, run everything that people said past my internal approvals committee. So I had a sponsee a number of years ago, more than one who's done this. We'd be WhatsApping and I'd say something and he'd write back, agreed. I'm like, oh, you agree, do you? Which bit of you did the agreeing? Like, if you didn't agree, where would we be then? Would we be having an argument about who has the program in this condition, in this situation? What does that mean? You agree. I had to learn that even if I didn't agree, I'd probably better do it anyway. Just try it out. Try it out for a year. Try it out for 5 years. If you hate it after 5 years, you can leave. You can actually leave at any point. But you had to try the whole package deal first. So just take it as it's offered and worry about what you agree with and disagree with later. So when I see something in the book, I don't say, do I agree with that? I say, well, I'll do it. It's not true because it's in the book. A friend of mine said they put it in the book because for them it was true. That's the way round it works. So it's not a Bible, it's simply a record of what other people found to work, other people found to be true. No one's trying to bash the book over my head. No one's trying to force me to believe anything. And I'll tell you a little story. It was probably about 15 years in recovery before I fully conceded that I needed to do everything in the big book. I was a little bit piecemeal before then, and I don't blame myself for that because frankly around me most people were take what you want, leave the rest, do this, don't worry about that. The kind of culture of just do whatever is in the book and don't think about it was not there. You did what the people around you did. That was the surrender, was to the fellowship and what the general advice was. It wasn't to what was in the book. It's changed a lot in the last 30 years. So it took me a while, but I found myself at 15 years clean and sober. Almost everything was significantly better, but I still had some addictive patterns. I won't go into colourful descriptions of what they were. No one needs that. But there were things which I wasn't comfortable with in my own behaviour, and there were tensions in my relationships, particularly with my mother and other people in my family, which I just couldn't get past. And I thought, you know what? Bill W. in the big book with all of his extravagant promises, I haven't fulfilled the conditions for seeing if those extravagant promises are going to fully come true. I'd spent years like discounting, saying, you know, Bill, he was a salesman, and so he sold us big on the promises, but, you know, you've heard it said in meetings, life doesn't stop happening just because you're clean. Life isn't a bed of roses. You know, I'm a human being, which means I'm going to stay fucked up forever. I'm going to have problems which are never going to get resolved. There's this discounting the whole time, and I did that. And then, embarrassingly, I thought, right, I'm going to do exactly what's in the book. And those other problems started to almost literally melt away very, very quickly. The relationship with my mother, which had always been very tense, immediately started to get better. And I've learned now, I'm not problem-free today, in that every day you wake up, you discover yourself with the curriculum for the day. Like, you never get past lessons, so there are always lessons to be learned. But when I think of what was bothering me a year ago, gone, finished, done, over. New set of things today. But those things, they're really gone. That problem of the same thing coming back again and again and again, and always the same, but just maybe a little bit worse, that's gone, that's over. I have genuine solutions, but lessons will continue to be learned because my life is constantly changing. In great part, that's why lessons are still to be learned. But I don't think you can rush this. You can't make it go quicker for yourself. I don't think you can make it go quicker for anyone else. So I resisted for a long time. Good for me. I may be needed to, because life will just give you the lessons you need to make you stop resisting. So I've become much more patient with myself, you know, thinking I should be over this by now. Well, I'm not, apparently. So let's just deal with the fact I'm not over it rather than saying I ought to be like other people. You see some people getting well so quickly. I'm not one of them. Okay. I'm someone that has needed to take a long time over this. What would you say to someone who keeps relapsing and feels like CA just doesn't work for them? With lots of these questions, the question reveals the answer in the question. Feels like CA doesn't work for them. Someone said to me, when you start working for CA rather than expecting CA to work for you, you'll get well. When you come to a meeting saying, what can I give, what can I add, how can I be there for the person next to me, even if you're 2 days sober and shaking and there's someone next to you that's 1 day sober or clean, you can be of help to them. You can say to them, maybe we'll stop shaking at some point, and give them a bit of hope. What can you say to someone who keeps relapsing? Well, obviously give it another go. The thing about relapse is one exception to what I'm going to say. In general, my experience is this. If I do exactly what I'm told, then the relapsing stops. And I'll tell you why. For me to relapse, a couple of things would have to happen. I would have to have the thought of relapsing. That's always got to be there. And then I would have to obey the thought. Without those two conditions, a relapse can't happen. So a relapse can only happen in someone who is obeying their own thoughts. There are lots of things that people say in meetings which are not in the big book, but are absolutely right. They're consistent with the big book. Sometimes in big book world, people say, if it's not in the book, I don't give a shit, and, and it's so tiresome that there is a lot which is said in meetings, which is so wise and so consistent with the book. It's just the same thing put a different way. And I heard someone say, and you hear a lot of this actually, people saying, my head wants to kill me. Basically, they've separated themselves from their head. Their head is just this monster in the corner that they know not to obey anymore. And instead, I'm just going to go to meetings, do what my friends do what my sponsor says, and that's the end of it. They're going to be okay because they're no longer listening to their head. I've sponsored a lot of people who are slippers, partly because people go along the chain and eventually they get to the person that's 20 or 30 years sober because they've tried everyone else. So I get the people who've gone down the chain. And the one thing people always have in common at the beginning of the process with me is you'll say something to them and they say, yeah, but my head keeps telling me. I'm like, oh, you're still interested in your head. You're offering up what your head is saying on a silver platter, so we're both looking at what you're thinking. Why are you still interested in what you think? That's the problem. I've learnt when I wake up in the morning, some days I wake up and it's like, in those Disney films after the storm where, all the little birds come out and they're tweeting, and it's honestly 2 days out of 3 I wake up in some kind of god-awful condition. Sometimes that god-awful condition persists until mid-morning. Sometimes I'm fine by 5:31. I wake up at 5:30. By 5:31 my head's on straight. But the difference now, I know that whatever my head produces first thing in the morning, it could be, if I had MSG the night before, I'm going to wake up and a lot of it is physical. But anyway, I had MSG yesterday, so today has been interesting. Anyway, I wake up in the morning, I know my head is not to be believed. And that's the difference between me and someone who's relapsing. I don't give a shit what's going on up there. I know how to live today. I know what to do. I know what prayers to say, and eventually it comes in line. But it comes in line because I'm living in accordance with a different system. And in that system, my day is not designed by me. My life is not designed by me. I wake up in the morning. So one of the first things in the morning you say to yourself, say to God, God, please direct my thinking, page 86. And it says we consider our plans for the day. You can only consider your plans for the day if you already have plans. So my life's already planned out. I know what I'm doing each day of the week. I know where I live, which was new when I got into recovery. Where do I live? Big question. Are you in a relationship? Complicated. How long have you got would be the answer to that. But now things are very simple. And so I don't have to think about anything very much. And so I don't need to refer to the little man in my head. It's talking. It can talk. I don't give a shit anymore because I know it's not real. So I think the best thing I could do when I was new was stop listening to my head, stop paying it any attention. You can't turn the volume off completely, but you can turn the volume down just by not giving it attention, not giving it energy, saying thank you for sharing, now sit down. There are so many little things you hear which are helpful. What do you suggest for a newcomer's first 30 to 90 days? Oh, the one exception, crystal meth is a very, very tricky substance which seems to act differently on the brain. And my crystal meth sponsees are on a much shorter leash than anyone else. The slightest deviation from the system, good luck to you. So substance, people do vary because of that substance. That's the only time where I've seen people really go at the program. like do almost everything perfectly, but the paranoia is very, very severe depending on how long people have been taking it. So there are exceptions. If there's real, essentially brain damage, the brain is altered by the drug, it can take a long time before that calms down, and there can be slips along the way and people come back. Usually it's binges with crystal, and they're back after a few days and you can start again, and eventually permanent recovery is achieved, but just keep trying. So I had a crystal meth sponsee many years ago who took about 5 years of working together. Eventually it became permanent. He's now like 15 years clean. So it is possible, but there's more patience with that one, sometimes with some other substances. Okay, what do you suggest for a newcomer's first 30 to 90 days in terms of meeting, step, service, and life? First of all, pages 84 to 88 of the big book, live by that, because that gets you constructing a plan for the day with your higher power and, if necessary, with your sponsor first thing in the morning. Then all you have to do is stick to the fucking plan. No bright ideas, get to bed, say a little prayer, wake up the next day, rinse and repeat. If you have a bright idea, call someone. But basically you're not allowed, once you've got the plan, you're not allowed to not stick to the plan. Pages 84 to 88 really cover it. With meetings, a bazillion meetings, just as many as you can get to, lots of face-to-face. Something happens, there's a bit in the book where it says, face-to-face or modem to modem, meetings are all the same. They're not. Online, when you're in a meeting, you're inside, you're surrounded by people, and that has a real effect on me. Even if doesn't matter what people are saying, just being with the people is enough to get me through another 24 hours. Online is for in between, is for when you physically can't get to a meeting because you're literally driving or you're literally preparing the dinner or whatever. With the steps, sometimes people say, well, you need to do the steps really quickly. I'm a bit hesitant about that. I think I started to get well when I surrendered to the process of doing the steps, and then I did them thoroughly. I've seen people skip through it very, very quickly and it hasn't touched the sides. And they say, well, I've done the steps, but nothing's gone in, nothing's been understood. I'm a bit sceptical about this. You have to get to power very, very quickly. Maybe sometimes people need to release a lot of stuff in step 5, make some basic step 9s. But even if that's done, go back and do it thoroughly. What I've noticed is my sponsees, don't relapse if they proceed steadily. That means giving the step work time each day. If it's done slowly, but they're spending an hour a day on step work plus a phone call with me to go through that, that's enough material to get the brain to start to be rewired. That's enough to concentrate on. And it's the amount of the progress you make, I don't think, is measured by which step you're on. It's measured by how much you're changing, how much the way you think about things changes. So as long as it's solid, there are people who are really skilled, can get people through the steps in like a week or a weekend. I'm just not one of them. But there are people who will do that, and they do it very well. And it wouldn't do for us all to be the same. Anything, by the way, which I say, which is helpful, I'm great. If it's not helpful, don't worry about it. And as a friend of mine, my sponsor actually says, I might change my mind on the way home. So whilst you're resenting me in 2 days' time for something that I said, I may already be agreeing with your objection. Why should a drug addict not drink alcohol, even if they feel alcohol has never been a problem? So let's say you came into recovery and the problem was cocaine. You wouldn't say that, well, why can't I take heroin? Why can't I take... surely I can get away with some non-habit forming ketamine. why single out alcohol for that question? Also, you see, what's so important about alcohol that not drinking is going to cause a problem? That's the real question. More interesting than most questions is why the question is being asked. Then you get to the real answer. Drink was one of the main substances. It wasn't the only substance. Some things, I just never liked marijuana. I didn't like what it did. But why don't I take it today? Number one, I don't want to be a hypocrite in meetings. Number two, I don't need to take anything today. So why would I want to change my consciousness when there's nothing wrong with my consciousness today? Why would I want to put myself in an artificial state where what I'm feeling is not a reflection of my life, but a reflection of the chemical that I've just taken? Why would I want that? What value would that be? So you're happy, you've taken something, now you're happy. What value does that happiness have? It's like if you had a Sudoku puzzle and someone said, I just filled in the numbers for you, and be like, great, it's complete. You've missed the whole point of it. The whole point of my life is, my God, I found a way of being happy on this planet. Maybe there are others, but this one is a tricky planet to be happy and functional on. There's a lot working against being happy here. There's a lot working against being functional. If you have a good day here, you're doing pretty fucking well. And if I could press a button and just feel like I'm doing well, it wouldn't have any value. So where is the question coming from? Do I want to be happy, or do I want to live a valuable life? How do you pick a sponsor? Carefully. That's how you pick a sponsor. How do you pick a sponsor, and what do you look for in them? And what should a sponsor and sponsee reasonably expect from each other? A sponsor, I think, is someone who shows you the mechanics of the program, is not going to get up in your business with opinions about things. They might shoot a few shots across your bow occasionally, but they're not there. A sponsor is not there as a blue light service. They're not an emergency service. They're not the Samaritans. They're not a psychotherapist or a psychoanalyst. They're not a wizard. They're not an uncle, older brother, best friend, bank, someone to take you to dinner, a person to give you validation, a person to make things right. They're nothing but someone to show you the mechanics. This is at the beginning, first year or two, maybe the first few years. Show you the mechanics, show you how to apply the program, point you to the tools, point you to a higher power, show you how to have a relationship with a higher power so you're dependent on the higher power, not on them. If there's anything else on the table, run for the hills. It can get very entangled. And I've got into entanglements in both directions with sponsees, with sponsors. Not pretty. I don't mean sexual. I mean, a bond which is getting in the way. When you like the person, and you're worried, you don't want to say the wrong thing in case you lose them as a sponsee or lose them as someone just you enjoy speaking to. As a sponsor, you've got to be able to say things as you see them, even if they put the phone down or stop breathing. I don't mean stop breathing in a strangulation sense. Stop breathing in the sense, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. You've got to say this. You've got to say the thing that they don't want to hear. If you've got a dog in the race with them, you won't say that. You'll hold it back. So with sponsees, basically, if they want to be free of all substances, if they want what's in the big book, what it says in the book is very good. If you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, what we have is a relationship with God, which enables us, which comes in to block the impulse to use. That's basically the thing that's on offer. If they want that, fine. And we start going through the book. If at any point they want to give up, fine, go and see someone else. After a few years, it's different. Once you know the ropes and you know how it works, you're sponsoring a shitload of people yourself. I hope you don't mind swearing. It's too late anyway. It's already cat's out of the bag. Once you know what you're doing, I don't think a sponsor is there like an elf, like after a few years, like an elf on the shelf who knows you better than you do, to see all the secret little things going on inside you. I'm accountable to my conscience and my higher power, and the responsibility rests with me. I don't like intrusiveness from a sponsor, and I have a non-intrusive sponsor who fortunately has been in AA since 1976 and Al-Anon since 1978, so all the kinks have been worked out of the system by now. He's someone I can talk to, and here's the thing, tell the truth to. And then he says things back, and they're helpful. But he doesn't monitor me. He's not thinking about me. He's just someone I can talk to, and it's my responsibility to bring the honesty to the table. So I do that. And the thing is, with relationships and recovery, it's not like there's a one-stop shop. There were meetings I went to when I was new called The Joys of Recovery, and then other ones called A Vision for You. There were kind of two almost sects within AA, very, very hard line. They didn't really like each other. It started out as one group, there'd been a problem, they'd split. The Joys were a bit softer. The Vision for You, if you asked someone a question, they'd say, well, I think you should talk to your sponsor about that. And you couldn't have a human conversation with everyone. They just tell you to go and talk to. So you talk to your sponsor. And if they didn't know what to say, they would ask their sponsor, and there was this whole chain of people. And I can, to a certain extent, that's normal, as long as that's not the only thing going on. Otherwise, it becomes like a pyramid scheme. So I say to sponsees, you need to develop relationships with a lot of people, because I might not be there, I might have a bad day, I might get run over by a bus, I might throw myself in front of a bus. Like, literally anything could happen. So you must not depend on me. You need a whole range of relationships. People newer, people same length of recovery, people a bit further ahead. Talk to people. Just talk to them. I don't mean opinion shopping. Just get to know some people, develop some human relationships. And then the sponsor is there for the sponsorship stuff. They're not like the cure-all for all problems. That's when it gets weird, and if it gets weird, it's over. Don't try and fix it. Just get another one. If as a sponsor you're creeped out, say, you know what, I'm no longer available. They don't need you. They need someone. You're not the only person, so they can get someone else. No, I sometimes, if you're around for a while, sometimes people try to send you a hard case. Like you can help them, but no one else can. Bullshit. If they had someone that was sober 8 days more than them, but was competent, that had some competence with what was in the book, that's good enough. It's not about special skills or I had a sponsee once and I said, what do you want from me? And she said, I want you to massage truth into my brain. And I was like, this is over. I'm not a special practitioner. So fuck off with that. God bless you, lovey, but F off. Just go and get a regular sponsor who will say, on page 86 it says this. That's what you want. Then it's your job to apply it. This kind of cod psychoanalysis, forget it. I'm saying lots of things I shouldn't say, but there we go. They're said. How do you handle it when a sponsee relapses or stops calling? I love the second bit. How do you handle it when they stop calling? Like you're sitting there by the phone, waiting. He hasn't called for 3 days. What am I going to do? They're not calling. Good. You have time to watch Judge Judy now. You've got a free afternoon. Great. When they don't call me, I'm happy. If they're in trouble, that's their business, not mine. They're not accountable to me. How do you answer a phone that's not ringing? If the phone isn't ringing, there's nothing to respond to. Now, when they do call you again, they always call you at some point. Even if it's years later, they'll always call you again for some reason. You say, hey, it's been 6 months. Why? Just have a conversation about it. Not, you haven't called, you're a bad puppy. Just, no, no punishment, none of that. Just, what's going on? Have a human conversation. If they relapse, maybe try someone else. 1 or 2 relapses. At the beginning, it can take a while to get the hang of the system, because the system in recovery, there are a lot of moving parts. There's steps, there's service, there's sponsorship, there's a lot going on, and people are on a short fuse. So some relapses can happen at the beginning. So maybe 1, maybe 2. After a while, try someone else. But there are exceptions. Sometimes people have had 47 sponsors over 5 years, and each time they go to a new sponsor and they're back at square one with someone that doesn't know them. The addiction loves this because the sponsor is at a bit of a disadvantage there. Sometimes it's best to stick with the same person because they know you. And the sponsor can then say, well, it's over to you now. If you want to get well, you know what to do. Call me if you have a question. I can't fix you. But don't think you need, you've had 47 wrong sponsors, you need the special right sponsor. It's your problem. It's not the sponsor's problem. So you won't fix that by changing sponsor. You'll fix that by changing your behaviour. You get the behaviour right, you'll sort it out. Meanwhile, call any time. And if they trust you by then, which they usually do after a few months, if they've survived a slip or two, they usually trust you. If they call you again and you can talk to them like a human being. So that's what you do with people who slip. Let's do one more question and then we'll have a little break. How do you really do step 3 in your daily life? What does turning it over look like in everyday life? So step 3 has got 2 elements. There's the question of complete steps 4 through 9, and that's not done until it's done. In Bill's story, Bill W. says, my friend Ebby told me when these things were done, the steps, when they were done, I would enter into a new relationship with my creator. I think that's the line roughly. When these things were done, not almost done. So if you say to someone, have you complete... Once I said to someone, they'd been relapsing or were having difficulties, and I said, have you completed the steps? They said, yes. And I said, did you complete your amends? She said, yes, both of them. Both of them? You mean you've been a shining light in the lives of literally everyone you've met except these 2 people. You fucked up there and you made amends. So you're done after 2 people, are you? I've met really nice people in recovery that had 80 amends. Who got into recovery at 18 or 19, still had 80 people. And they were nice people. They didn't do half the stuff I did. So 2, you've got to complete the amends, and the step 8 needs to be complete as well. It really needs to be every little thing. But the actual handing over of my life to God, the best way to put it is my life is none of my business. The conduct of my life is my business. There's a line in the big book where it says, the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. And what this means is, stop planning, because you'll sell yourself short. Now, I've changed what I do for a living since I've been in recovery. Did I plan? Kind of not really. What did I do? I said to God, fuck this about my existing occupation. I couldn't do it I burned out, couldn't do it. I literally couldn't go in the building where I was working. I just was so physically sick from it. And I said, show me what to do. I don't care. I literally don't care now. I'm done. I don't care. I was about 8 years sober. Don't care. And the chain went like this. It was, go to this place where they have books on X. Read the book on X. Go and look for universities where they teach this thing. Try this one. Apply for that. See what they say. And a chain builds up, and eventually you find yourself doing something differently, having a different life. I didn't say, this is the objective and this is how I'm going to get there. So it's the opposite of what they say in the world. All I ever need to do is literally ask God what to do today. That is it. So on page 86, where it says we consider our plans for the day, it means don't consider anything else. Now, occasionally one of those things today might have an impact for the future. It might be book a flight for 6 months' time. You have to think about that. Or if it's a job application, that might have a long-term impact. But it's the actions of the day. That's really it. I stay out of my life and I stay in the day. So in the morning, I get my list of things to do. Then I do them and then I go to bed. So I don't know about life. I don't know how people construct their lives because I don't do it. I just have a day and that's it. So should we have a break for 5 minutes or so, and we'll start again at 7. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.